With the symptom of being human, Shinedown scored their 19th #1 single on the mainstream rock charts. They have more #1 hits than the Foo Fighters, Metallica, Linkin Park, Nickelback, and literally everyone else on the charts. For this video, I have analysed these 19 songs to find out exactly what Shinedown do to earn themselves so many #1 hits. When I started making this video, I was a casual listener of Shinedown. I wasn't that familiar with their catalogue. I knew I liked some songs, I knew I didn't like others. However, during my analysis, I realised that even though their music may seem simple, they incorporate a lot of advanced compositional ideas and techniques. This gives their music way more depth than I initially thought. Their brilliance becomes obvious when you see how often they use these advanced techniques. Lots of the songs had a verse in one key and a chorus in another, used intricate voice leading, or had atypical song structures, and yet every song still sounds deceptively simple. But that's enough of being vague. Let's look at the 3 specific tricks that Shinedown use and find out exactly what they do differently that gives them their unique sound. Trick number 1 is melody. There are actually 2 important patterns that Shinedown use in their melodies. Take a look at these examples. I've put them all into the same key to make the patterns more obvious. What patterns can you see? The first thing that comes to mind are that they are mostly focused on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th scale degrees. The second thing I notice is that most of the melodic movement stepped from one note to the next. All these examples are from choruses, but the verses look very similar. There are more patterns, but we'll come back to that in a minute. I noticed that Shinedown often use the 4th scale degree as one of the most important notes in their melodies. This is an interesting choice because normally the most common notes are the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th, and to a lesser degree the 7th. The remaining notes, being the 2nd, 4th, and 6th, are less common because they usually need to be resolved. This is because they tend to feel unstable on their own. However, using one of these unstable notes can be a very wise choice because it leaves you lots of places to go. If your main note has to move, then your melodies can go anywhere. But if your main note feels stable and doesn't really want to move, then you limit your options. So keep that in mind. If you want to write melodies like Shinedown, focus on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th scale degrees and create melodies stepping between those 3 notes. Now I want to take another look at those melodies again and see if you can spot yet another pattern. Spot it yet? Good work, I knew you would. Just so we know we're speaking about the same thing, Shinedown create a very simple idea and repeat it 3 or 4 times before finalizing the melody. Sure, there can be minor variations here and there, but this pattern of 3 or 4 repetitions was very common. So for Shinedown melodies, prioritize the 4th scale degree and step up or down to the 5th and 3rd as needed. Once you've got a simple idea, repeat it 3 or 4 times before resolving it. Trick 2, harmony. As with trick 1, there are 2 aspects to this and both are of equal importance. The first one I mentioned at the start of the video. Shinedown change keys regularly. Some of these key changes are simple, very easy to do, and are very easy to listen to. There's also some really crazy ones that can only really be justified with intelligent voice leading. The way that I like to think about key changes is that they allow us to explore different moods and emotions within our songs. The simplest example would be when we're changing from C major to A minor. These scales contain exactly the same notes. For that reason, they're known as the relative major or the relative minor. There's no new notes, just the new home. The song shifts from a happy feeling in the verse to a sad feeling in the chorus without the need of new notes. Listen to Unity to hear an example of this. Bully goes from C sharp major in the verse to its parallel minor in the chorus. It's called a parallel minor because C sharp remains as the root of the scale, but the scale shifts from the major to the minor. It's another relatively simple way to transition from happy to sad or vice versa because the root note doesn't change. It still feels familiar, but now there's a twist. The Crow and the Butterfly gets a special mention here because it does some really interesting stuff. The 2 chords that make up the verse are A major and F major. These chords belong in 2 different scales. The notes from A major are A, C sharp, and E, which leads our ear towards an A major sound. And then the F major chord is made up of the F, A, and C, which leads our ear towards the sound of an A minor or an F major scale. We also then have the C, B flat, and A flat major chords in the pre-chorus before we move to a regular A minor chorus with no bells and whistles. Harmonically, this is insane, and yet it's seamless to listen to because of the voice leading. I could go on about this in a lot more detail, but that is not the scope of this video. If you'd like me to do a deep dive into the Crow and the Butterfly, please let me know in the comments below. The second part about chordal moves is that whilst Shinedown often use the 1-5-4-6 progression or some simple variation of it, they also extend their chord progression quite regularly by replacing 1 or 2 chords when the chord progression is repeated. This change now makes a 4-chord progression into an 8-chord progression. For example, in the verse of Atlas Falls, the chords go from the 1 to the 6. As the B section of the verse comes around, the 7 chord is introduced. Sure, it's a simple change because adding a 7 is a really common way to connect the 6 and the 1. However, if they didn't change anything, then the chordal idea would predictably stay the same, and this works to limit your melodic options. Adding in or changing chord movements even in very subtle ways can give you a lot more bang for buck out of your compositions. So when writing your own song, prioritize 2 things. Change keys to give yourself more emotive expression within a song, and extend chord progressions by changing some chords on repetitions. Trick number 3. 2-part choruses. This one is pretty self-explanatory, but man was it common. I was surprised to see how many choruses seem to set up a whole chorus melody and then instead of tying it up and going back to the verse, went on to a chorus B section. This happens in Get Up, Attention Attention, Planet Zero, Second Chance, The Crow and the Butterfly, Cut the Chord, State of My Head, and definitely others. Unity is a great example of this. I consider the chorus for Unity to be over 30 seconds long, which is insane considering the song is only 4 minutes long. It has multiple melodies but feels like one solid chorus idea, and I believe that this is a pretty big clue into at least some of Shinedown's success. I think it's pretty easy to understand that the more catchy a chorus, the more successful the song will be. If your choruses are twice as long as normal with 2 distinct and catchy melodies, you're doubling your chances of capturing a listener. Proceed with caution though, you never want your melody, especially one that's as important as the chorus, to feel like it waffles on or not have much direction. This could literally change your song from being awesome and catchy to being totally unlistenable. Shinedown combat this by having a succinct and catchy melody that then seamlessly leads into another succinct and catchy melody. Moving right along, there were actually a notable amount of choruses that had a full standard chorus idea with a significant tag on the end. This happens in Daylight, Second Chance, Devil, and A Symptom of Being Human. So for your choruses, either make a 2-part chorus or put a significant tag on the end of your chorus, or you can do both. Onto the summary. My favorite compositions and lyrics are ones that feel simple on face value, but when you look that little bit deeper, you find that there's so much more depth. I think Shinedown nailed this balance, and I look forward to incorporating some more Shinedownian ideas in my own compositions. So that you get the simplest summary possible, the 3 tricks that I identified were: number 1, write simple melodies based around the 4th scale degree that are repeated several times before they're resolved. Number 2, write simple chord progressions that change through time and feel free to explore other keys. Number 3, write choruses that have 2 distinct and significant sections. Thanks for sharing your attention with me, and please let me know in the comments below what band or genre you'd like me to tackle next. See ya.